Radio check, loud and clear. Oh, hopefully you guys can hear me. We are getting underway for the Qatar Grand Prix very, very soon. Currently up on the screen, we've got the standings at the end of the Qatar Grand Prix last year. And, well, last year, of course, it was, won by Max Verstappen after he won 19 of 21 races last year. The McLarens are in second and third. The Mercedes in fourth, and the Ferrari in fifth. So we'll see what happens this year. It's going to be a very, very exciting weekend. Of course, it is a sprint weekend. Oh, there we go. The data's finally come through. I think we've got the FP1 data as well. Let me just get rid of the... All right, we'll have the FP1 data in a couple of minutes. Is Cadillac coming to F1 in 2026? Yes, it is. Cadillac is coming to F1. It's going to be very, very exciting having 22 cars on the grid rather than 20. It will definitely mix things up, add more chaos, and I definitely cannot complain. So, yeah. All right. Hello. Good afternoon from Spain. Hola. I know Buenos Dias is good morning, but it's good afternoon, which I don't know. So we shall leave it. What is the constructor's name for Cadillac? I'm not sure, actually. I think it will be... it will have to be confirmed later on. Right now, they've just expressed interest, and Formula One has agreed to that interest. They think that Cadillac has enough investment into Formula One. They know what the costs related to, design, having a huge aero department, having a huge structures and chassis department. And I think they've basically said that yes, you can join. However, I don't think all the details have been finalised. Don't you have F1 work experience? Unfortunately, I don't. I would very much like to work in Formula One. It may not be for a full-time... may not, I'd like to work in Formula One probably for a couple of years, probably not like my whole career, but definitely be very interesting. But as of now, no, I'm still a student, so... Right. Do you think there will be a Ferrari fight? Well, we shall talk about that. It's been a hot topic as of the last week, the two Ferrari drivers and what they're up to. So I'll get onto that. But yeah, pretty interesting what's been going on down at Ferrari. But I can't blame Carlos Sainz for what he's done. But I'll get into it later on once we've got a couple more people on the live stream. You're a student, you sound like you're in your 30s. I think it might be partially due to my mic. My mic, I guess, might sort of boost the low part of my voice. In fact, do I have a tune on my mic? Like, so I can, let me have a check. No, I don't have a tune on my voice, on my mic. So I think it's, when you listen to yourself in a video, and everything sounds totally off, and it obviously depends on how that mic is set up and things like that, so I think it might be that, but I don't know. I mean, I guess, what do the rest of you think how old I am? Well, you know that I'm a student, but from my voice. Hello, OG London Girl, and Exotech, nice to see you here. It is currently in the UK, 1:18. 1:18 p.m. 13:18. Yeah, so it's we're gonna have a sprint weekend, of course. It's gonna be very, very tough on the drivers. The Qatar Grand Prix, we've only raced here 2 times before, but it is extremely difficult for the drivers to deal with. Essentially, it's got the same temperatures as Singapore. However, the advantage that you get from the driver's perspective at Singapore is that everything is low speed and you have very short corners, while, you may have some big deceleration zones. Like deceleration, acceleration isn't the big problem when it comes to G-forces. It's a sideways G-force, which you get when you're turning. And Singapore doesn't have any very, very many long corners. In fact, the only long corner that I can think of in Singapore is the final 2 corners where you've got the double apex that you hit as you come onto the start-finish straight. So apart from that, no long corners at Singapore, and that as a result, the temperature and the G-forces, the temperature's high, but the G-forces aren't that high, so the drivers are in good condition once they get out. But here in Qatar, temperatures are high, G-forces are extremely high. If you look at the circuit here, there are no corners with a tight radius. All of them are fairly big radius. I think turn number 6 is the tightest corner. The drivers drop down to third gear, maybe second gear at turn number 6. But for the rest of that, the drivers are constantly going left, right, at very, very high speeds. The G-forces are high, the temperatures are high, and, well, it results in the drivers being a lot more worse for wear by the end of the race. So I think a couple of the drivers last year, a couple of the rookies couldn't cope that well. I suspect some of the drivers that don't have their fitness all the way up to spec, they were on the verge of throwing up by the end of the race. They were fainted, went straight to sleep, things like that. So yeah. All right, what else? What are the rest of these comments? Do you watch any other sport? Yeah, I mean, I actually, do I on a regular basis watch any other sport? Not really. I mean, I'll put on the occasional MotoGP race or something, but yeah. Because I do so, I'm best at placed to judge a commentary. You are not seriously claiming that is work. I don't know what you mean by that. Just a question, do you watch any other F1 channels? If so, which ones? I watched the occasional Tom and Matty and Tom. Oh, is it Matt and Tommy? So I watch a couple of their videos, but I don't watch that much YouTube really. I keep a track of, my competitors on YouTube, like the other people that do Formula 1 live streaming. But yeah. What else? What do you think of the Sepang circuit? The Sepang circuit is fantastic. It is so wide, so many different racing lines you can take, so much action that can take place there. And of course, the weather in Sepang is always unpredictable, just the same way as it is in Singapore and in Brazil. So I think that, yeah, Sepang is a fantastic circuit. We should race there. Okay. Let's have a look. Do you watch the Eddie Jordan and DC podcast? I love that. No, I actually didn't know they had a podcast. Now that you've mentioned it, I may go look it up. Also, I think the Ayrton Senna Netflix show is coming out today. I'm not 100% sure. Let me just look it up. Senna Netflix release date. I think it's coming out this week or the week after. Oh no, the first episode is today. Netflix is releasing the first episode today of the Senna documentary, or I'm not sure if it's a documentary or a show or what it is, but yeah, I recommend you guys might be interested in watching that. So yeah, I'd recommend. Okay, we are 6 minutes away from the start of practice. Not too much going on, and yeah. Max Semple asks, have you ever designed an aircraft? I'm currently no, I'm currently interested in designing a Formula 1 car rather than an aircraft. But aircrafts are pretty cool. They do the reverse of a rear wing in Formula 1. The rear wing produces downforce, an aircraft produces lift. Pretty cool. What else? Dhruv Ahuja, there is a reference. Oh, I don't think that's meant for me. Also, Motorcycle Mary is out on YouTube. Oh yeah, Motorcycle. I remember seeing something about that on Instagram, but yeah, I haven't seen that much motorcycle clips really. The odd MotoGP clip here and there, but the problem is that quite often MotoGP and Formula 1 are at the same time or at similar times. So while one is going on, I can't watch both at the same time. So yeah. All right. Is it going to be blank till the race starts? Well, no. The practice data will come through, and then we'll have all the cars coming out onto the circuit very, very shortly. The other remaining F1 news that we've got really is that there's not going to be too many upgrade packages brought out this weekend, because we are at this penultimate race of the season. All of the teams now will have switched to developing their cars for 2025. There is a slight chance that Ferrari, McLaren might bring one just to get the edge over the other opponent, but I don't think they have brought any upgrades. F1 Gamer predictions for the top 3 today. Well, considering we're going to have sprint qualifying later on today, I'm going to put my predictions in at... we're going to see Charles Leclerc on pole position. We're going to have Lando Norris in 3rd place, and I'm going to put Oscar Piastri up in 2nd. That's my predictions. So we shall see what happens. Dylan Tan, great to be back. Yeah, great to have you back, Dylan. It's been a while since I've seen you, but yeah, here you are for the Qatar Grand Prix. 3 minutes away now from the start of practice. Not too much action going on. We've just got the engineers starting up the engines now. And given that we only have 1 hour of practice and we're immediately going into qualifying, it's going to be a jam-packed practice session. All of the drivers getting out ASAP, and we should have quite a bit of running. As of now, it is the afternoon in Qatar. It is, I think, 4 p.m. in Qatar, 4:30 p.m. Track temperature 26 degrees, air temperature 21 degrees, so lower than what it was last year. The wind is very, very high. We've got 18 kilometers per hour of wind in Qatar right now, in Doha, and that is going to be very difficult for the drivers to manage with, especially through all of these high-speed corners, the long high-speed corners. The crosswinds that you're going to get and the tailwinds that you're going to get are significantly going to reduce their downforce. And if it's gusting as well, which I think it is, that's also going to mean we could see a couple of drivers spinning off here and there, because, well, you know, they catch a gust of wind at the wrong time, at the wrong place, and their car will go straight into the barriers. All right. Smaller vertical wing packages. Smaller vertical wing packages are... They could be used, however, the problem is that you do need as much downforce as possible at this circuit. So you're much better off taking the hit in crosswind performance and in tailwind performance than reducing your rear wing size and just having less grip overall. You'd much rather have as much grip as possible, and it sometimes disappears, rather than just having less grip constantly. But we shall see. Oh, your flatmates into Formula 1? No, my flatmates aren't particularly into Formula 1. They hear about Formula 1 because of me. And they'll check the results, but not all that interested. Will Red Bull drop Checo at the end of the season? Well, I think Christian Horner came out and said Checo's seat is a lot less secure than it was previously. However, they say these things, and then 2-3 days later they'll say, oh, Sergio Perez is a critical and important part of our team and he won't be going anywhere. And then the next weekend they'll say, oh, Sergio Perez is going to leave and his seat isn't secure. So I don't really know what to believe. However, with Red Bull, they're going to win the world championship. Max Verstappen is world champion. But the constructor championship, they're going to end up in 3rd place, and that is solely and utterly down to Sergio Perez. Because say if Red Bull were, I don't really need to explain this, I think it's fairly obvious, but if Red Bull, in the first 7 races where they won every single one, or won 7 out of the first 10 or something like that, if Perez was there in 2nd and 3rd place every single time, they would have done the exact same thing as Max, whereas they would have got all of their points in the first half of the season and then kind of coasted their way through the second half. But yeah, they didn't, and well, Sergio Perez didn't deliver, and they've ended up in third place. So I mean that kind of just goes to show you, if Max wasn't as dominant as he was at the start of the season, then he probably would have ended up in third place as well in the drivers' championship. Oh, Exotech, thank you for the gifted memberships. Very much is appreciated. Yeah, we've got a couple of people who have been gifted memberships. That is fantastic. Thank you very, very much. Norris Paul followed by two Mercedes. Yeah, this is the thing with the two Mercs. Some weeks the Mercs are really quick and they're on the pace, battling away for wins, like they were last weekend. And now we have no idea. Maybe they'll show up this weekend and their car is fantastic. Maybe they'll show up this weekend and their car is, they're going to be in 6th and 7th for the entire weekend. So we are still yet to see. I think this circuit might prefer the Mercedes car slightly because it is going to be very smooth. It's going to be dusty, but the surface itself is quite smooth, and the curbs aren't too high, so the team can set the car up very low to the ground, which I think helps the Mercedes team. However, this thing isn't an exact science. I'm kind of just guessing here, and yeah, who knows what will happen down at Mercedes, because all of these predictions that we made, Mercedes are good when the car is low to the ground, that could easily change with one or two upgrade packages to the floor, and suddenly it's the total opposite. So we shall see. All right, when is it going to start? Well, the time is down to 0. You're getting all the radio checks coming through on the screen now. I'm going to do a quick refresh of the data, so the screen should go black for about 7-8 seconds. Oh, there we go. We've already got the drivers out onto the circuit. I just forgot to refresh the data. Let me just add the delay back in so everything's synced up. Apply. Okay, there we go. But yes, everyone's come out onto the circuit. The data's just paused there because it's syncing up with what I'm looking at. But once everything's synced up, we will get back to the commentary. The data will start moving again. But yeah, we've got drivers all the way already out on the circuit now, and that's to be expected given that it is we've only got 1 hour of practice. All right, let me just adjust the size of the timing screen. Right. So that is that's adjusted there. You can see the speed trap speeds as the drivers go down the main straight, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, reaching 311 kilometers an hour. I don't think they're using DRS as of now, but yeah, the drivers are on fairly high downforce specs going into this weekend. All right, 1,500 people watching. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Hope you guys are enjoying the coverage. Be sure to hit the like button. Hugely helps out the channel. Yeah. Okie dokes. What else have we got going on? Not that much really. We've got the Ferraris out on hard tyres. Everyone else is out on the mediums, which is interesting. But yeah, I don't think there's too much to read into there. I think Ferraris may just be experimenting with the hard tyres at the start of the session, and then they'll switch on to the mediums later on, and the other drivers may do the opposite. All right, so now we've got, I think, 2,000 people tuned into live stream. Let's get into the discussion around Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc and what are they going to do about team orders. So, firstly, we should start off by saying Ferrari have a very nice problem. The problem is that both of their drivers are super quick and they're pushing each other to the limit. That's one side of the spectrum. The other side of the spectrum, of course, is Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, where one driver is totally dominating the other and there's no chance for the other driver to even get close. So those are two different spectrums. Both of them aren't ideal situations, but I would say that the two fast drivers is a much better situation to have than one fast, one slow. And Carlos Sainz is leaving at the end of this year, so he's leaving at the end of this year, and essentially how these team orders things work and what Charles was frustrated about is in these scenarios, the team, they plan certain situations out. Like, for example, I think when Norris and Piastri switched in the Brazilian Grand Prix sprint race, it was all pre-planned out ahead. Piastri knew going into this race, if he was even in the lead of the race going into towards the final lap, then he would have to give up the position to Norris for the championship. That was already agreed upon, and yeah, and that was the end of it. Piastri gave up the position. People weren't happy, but the two drivers knew what their position was, and they completed their task. Whereas at Ferrari, what has happened is they do their pre-race agreements. They say, oh, if one driver has to undercut me, if I have to protect against an undercut, we retain the same position, things like that. Basically, what happened was last weekend, Verstappen tried to undercut Sainz, so Ferrari had to pit Sainz immediately. But because they pitted Sainz, that means Sainz had undercut Leclerc, and the ideal thing to do is make sure the drivers don't swap around. They retain the same position as before, but that didn't happen. Carlos Sainz caught up to the back of Charles Leclerc at the start of his stint, and then what happened was that he overtook him. The pre-race agreement was, oh, don't overtake in such a situation where you have to protect against an undercut or anything like that. But Carlos Sainz, the reason he's done that, well, the reason I think he's done that is that he is under no obligation to remain at Ferrari. The thing is, he's not got any consequences. So, for example, if Charles Leclerc disobeys team orders, and he'll annoy everyone at the team, and he's going to be with the same team next year. Whereas Carlos Sainz, he can disobey team orders, and then the only issue that he's going to have is at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. If he wants the positions to be flipped around, then Leclerc isn't going to flip the positions. And I think that's fair enough. But after that, Sainz is not going to have any sort of repercussions or consequences of disobeying team orders. You know, some people up and down the paddock will be like, "Oh, Sainz is not a very good team player, and he doesn't follow team orders." But I think in a championship winning situation, I think Sainz would give up a win to ensure that his teammate can win the World Drivers' Championship or something. And yeah, essentially. So that's what I'm saying. So I think Sainz has done what he's done because there are no repercussions remaining for him. I don't think it's particularly a good person, bad person thing. Well, I don't know. Of course, the common courtesy would be, we agreed upon this, let's stick to this. But you know, if he has no repercussions, then why should you stick to that? That turns into a little bit more of a philosophical debate rather than what you should do on the racetrack. But yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens this weekend. If Leclerc might do the opposite, Leclerc might do the same, and disobey all of the team orders that Ferrari tell him and just go overtake Sainz. All right. Can you show where each sector is? Yeah, sure, why not? So, of course, we have got the first sector here, starts at the start-finish line, and then, you follow your way through turn number 1, 2, and 3. Sorry, my cursor's not showing up on the screen. Let me just fix that. So your first sector starts at the start-finish line, then you go all the way across. This is where the first sector ends, just before the entry into turn number 6. Then that continues all the way on to just around about here, just before the entry of turn number 12. That's your second sector, and then you've got your third sector that goes all the way back to the start-finish line. So those are 3 sectors, just before the entry of turn number 6 and just before the entry of turn number 12. Do you think Tsunoda deserves a chance at Red Bull? Yes. I think that's a fairly simple question to answer. Tsunoda's been performing well. He is at the junior team of Red Bull. He's been quicker than Lawson. He's been quicker than Ricciardo. He's fairly consistent. He's matured once he's joined into Formula 1. He's been in Formula 1 quite a few years now. So he's got a little bit more experience on his hands. And I don't think it's Tsunoda's dream to just sit around and get top 10 places get 9th and 10th in the drivers, in 9th and 10th in races with an AlphaTauri team. I think his dream is to be at the top team, and Red Bull have the opportunity to do that and put him in there alongside Max Verstappen. I don't know if he will do well against Max Verstappen, but we shall see. All right. George Russell's over the radio saying that his brakes don't feel great, but he's just at fastest first sector, so I think those issues have been resolved. The consequences of his actions are that Red Bull and Merc don't want him. Well, I think they'd already decided before that Red Bull don't want him. Red Bull and Merc had already decided. So I think Sainz was just like, oh, well, I've got absolutely nothing to lose. I've got a seat at Williams next year, and none of the top teams want me, so I can just do whatever I want and get a podium instead of a fourth place or whatever. So we shall see. We shall see what it does. I don't know. Someone's just asked, do you think what Sainz did is okay? Honestly, I don't really know. I'm very happy for the fact that he did it, and we got a whole bunch of action and drama out of it. I'm not in a position to say, oh, is he a good person or a bad person for overtaking Leclerc? But I'm in a great position to just sit on the sidelines and spectate the action. Do you have any ideas about the comments that Zhou made about Colapinto in the last race? No, I have no idea what comments Zhou made. If you could inform me, that'd be fantastic. Which drivers do you think will join the new Cadillac team? I think Bottas would be prime candidate if he continues his test driver role at Mercedes for a year and then gets into Cadillac. That would be brilliant for him. Who else could join? We could get the return of Sebastian Vettel. I think that's fairly unlikely, though. Maybe Cadillac will want a American driver. I don't think Logan Sargent would be a good pick, but maybe there are some other ones from IndyCar. Maybe a rookie, maybe Colapinto, because I think Bortoletto is confirmed for Audi, so maybe sign Colapinto if he isn't signed by anyone else by that point. We shall see. But yes, what I can tell you is the driver market in 2025 is going to be so unpredictable. It's going to be so fun to listen to all of the rumours come out. There's going to be rumours left, right and centre. Oh, Mick Schumacher's going to join Cadillac. Oh no, actually it's going to be Colapinto. Oh no, actually it's going to be Kevin Magnussen. Or Bottas, or it could be any number of drivers. The thing with Cadillac though is that you don't know where they're going to be on the grid, so they could rock up to the first race in 2026 and be first place. While that is highly unlikely, I reckon they're not going to be dead last either. They could be dead last. I think out of any team, there is they probably have the highest chance of being dead last, but there's also a chance that Cadillac and General Motors, they have a lot of money behind them, a lot of engineering know-how, and they could see themselves up in the top teams as well. I don't know. Right, if we're looking at the track domination here between Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, both drivers are basically splitting half the track. Half the track Leclerc's faster, half the track Sainz is faster, and Sainz currently in 4th position on a set of hard tyres as well. So pretty good laps there from Carlos Sainz. What else? Gasly, purple middle sector there and up into 1st position. Fantastic job. And now we've got Max on a flying lap on. He's on a set of mediums as well. Everyone's out. In fact, Bottas is the only driver currently in the pit lane. I think he's just getting a bit more fuel put into his car. Colapinto had told in an interview that he wants to beat his teammates, and whether it be Max or Zhou got offended after overtaking Colapinto in the last race. He said something. Oh, okay, I see. I mean, I think Colapinto, the way that he said it was, oh, I want to beat my teammate, whether it be the best driver on the grid, Max, or the worst driver on the grid, Zhou. I think that's the kind of way that Colapinto said it, or maybe that was the way that Zhou interpreted it. But Colapinto hasn't been media trained very clearly, and that's why all of these things kind of slip out. And look at that, Max purple in the first, second and third sector. It goes 1 second quicker than the competition. And track evolution is going to be huge. Well, track evolution is huge right now. It's going to be huge in SQ1, 2 and 3, because, well, in Qatar it's firstly very windy, which means all of the sand in Qatar has just been blown onto the circuit, while the drivers now are driving around, they're cleaning the circuit up, and the track is getting quicker and quicker. Great lap there from George Russell as well. He goes 4 tenths back from Max Verstappen, and now we got Lando Norris across the line. He goes 2 tenths back. Everyone's slowly but surely getting closer to that top time of Max Verstappen. All right. I really don't care who drives for Cadillac. I just want to see them do well out of the gate. Yeah, that would be fantastic, really, for Cadillac. Because, well, it would be, because the thing is, if they start out badly and they start out right at the back of the grid, they're 1 second off the pace, then the urge to cut funding from the executives at Cadillac and at GM is very, very high. However, if they, even for 1 or 2 years, they say maybe get the odd podium here or there, that is huge for keeping the team going. And it would be fantastic to have an 11th team in Formula 1. Like, the last time we had an 11th team was in 2016, where was it Marussia? I forgot which team it was, but in 2016 we had 22 cars on the grid. And, well, just more cars, more action, more chaos. Cannot complain, really. So why not? Am I the only one who think this track doesn't suit F1 cars? I think this track probably has been designed a little bit more with MotoGP in mind. All of these very long, sweeping radius corners, like large radius corners, very long and sweeping. There's barely any, hairpins or heavy braking zones. Of course, you are braking going into turn number 1. You go down from 8th into 4th gear, but there's no 8th into 2nd gear or 8th into 1st gear, essentially. There's no real hairpins where you have to drop your speeds down so much. And because of that, it makes the overtaking a little bit harder for the drivers. And these long corners would be much more better for the long, the sweeping nature of MotoGP tracks. Marussia and Caterham. Right, yeah. Oh, Manor. Wait. Oh, I don't know. Manor, Marussia, Caterham, Lotus. Who knows? No, it's definitely not Lotus, but yeah. Manor Racing. Oh, yeah. Manor Racing. Very, for sure. It's very political, but Andretti had to step in the background to appease the FIA and team bosses. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't know why there is so much politics around joining for an extra team joining Formula 1. Like, of course, your prize pool does get split amongst another team, so it goes from divided by 10 to divided by 11. But I don't think it's really that significant. And yeah, more teams and more drivers means more fans coming to the circuit. Like, if you've got Valtteri Bottas and, say, Kevin Magnussen, who are driving for Cadillac next year in 2026, then those are all of the Valtteri Bottas fans, all of the Kevin Magnussen fans do want to come to the circuit and watch the races. More fans buy merch. Like, if you're thinking from a business perspective, then Formula 1, it would be fantastic to have an extra team. If you're thinking from a racing perspective, you've got more teams. That means you're much more likely that 2 drivers are very closely matched in terms of pace, which means you're going to have constant battling between them. So from both perspectives, from a business or a racing perspective, it's fantastic. So I don't really see why the teams are sort of against it. Yeah. What is track evolution? Track evolution is essentially the process of the track getting quicker and quicker, either through 2 processes. The first process is just the drivers cleaning up the track, getting rid of dust and debris and dirt and things like that. And the other process is the rubber from the Pirelli tyres gets embedded into the surface of the track, especially on the racing line. And that rubber, when you drive over the rubber and the asphalt combined, that gives you a lot more grip than just driving over asphalt. So those are the two things that speed the track up. Firstly, just clearing up the track, and the second thing is the adding the deposition of rubber onto the circuit, which speeds up, which makes the grip levels higher and speeds things up. Gasly is cooking since Brazil. Indeed he is. Gasly is doing fantastically. He got his third place in Brazil, and then he also was fourth place. I think his career best qualifying position, was it fourth or third last weekend? So a fantastic job from Pierre Gasly. And hopefully his form can continue onwards. In fact, folks, if you guys didn't know, Gasly did DNF in the race, and his reason for DNFing, it was a very interesting reason. He got a tow down the Las Vegas Boulevard, or the Las Vegas Strip, or whatever you want to call it. I think off Colapinto. His car reached a top speed of 361 kilometers an hour, and then the 8th gear shredded itself to pieces because it wasn't expecting to go that fast. What's it called? So the teams have to design fixed gear ratios for the entire season. We know that Alpine are, certain amount of horsepower down compared to all of the other engines. So because of that, their gearboxes as well are tuned for slightly lower top speeds, slightly lower acceleration values, and things like that. So then when Gasly got a fantastic tow off Colapinto, reached 361 kilometers an hour, his 8th gear just blew, it exploded or something happened, and it basically just broke open the gearbox, created a huge dent in the side pod. It imploded, exploded, sorry, not imploded. And then he had to DNF because his gearbox was broken. So, his gearbox broke because he was driving too quickly. Pretty incredible. All right. Let's see. We have got... The first couple of runs have been done now. We're reaching 20 minutes away through FP1, and Colapinto, Sainz, Lawson and Hamilton are the only drivers out on the circuit. Everyone has done their first runs though. They've all gathered some information on the medium tyres. Now I suspect they're going to put some more fuel into the car and go out on long runs on mediums or hards. Still yet to see. It is a sprint weekend, so we'll have the sprint qualifying happening in... let me figure out how long it's going to be. Until the start of sprint quali. It will be 3 hours and 37 minutes. Yeah. Right. What else is going on? What is FP? FP is free practice. So yeah, the drivers are free to do whatever they want. We've currently just got Lawson lapping around and everyone else sat in the pits. It's a little bit boring. But if we have a look at the standings, we've got Charles Leclerc up there first. Max Verstappen there in second. Gasly doing fantastically in third position. Norris in fourth. Carlos Sainz in 5th, Piastri is down in 11th there, but of course it is free practice. The drivers are getting used to the circuit, and soon enough they'll be back out on the track gathering some more information. Right. Sorry, the sprint race is tomorrow. Sprint qualifying is in 3 hours and 3 hours 30 minutes. 3 hours 35 minutes. Yeah. Right, folks, do let me know what your predictions are for this weekend. Will we see McLaren extend their lead out at the front ahead of Ferrari? Will Ferrari close the gap to McLaren in the Constructors' Championship, or will Ferrari overtake McLaren? Now, it is very, very complicated. Well, I mean, there's only 2 races left, actually, so I don't think the maths is that complicated. But I think the points gap, let me actually have a look. I forgot what the points gap is. I think Ferrari are on 485 and McLaren are on 506. But I do not remember exactly. F1 Constructors standings. Let me just Google that. Sprint quali as in GMT. Well, time still ticks the same in the world. So in 3.5 hours, it will still, in 3.5 hours is when sprint qualifying is. So if McLaren are on 608 points, Ferrari on 584. So there is a 24-point gap between the 2 teams. Now, if Ferrari can close 12 points this weekend, 12 points next weekend, then of course they'll get the championship sealed. And in fact, they won't actually. McLaren have got more second places. Both Ferrari and McLaren have got the same number of wins, but McLaren have got more second places than Ferrari. So if they end up on the same points total, then McLaren will win the championship because they have more second places than Ferrari. And yeah. Ferrari has a great competitive car, but their strategy is inconsistent and horrible at times. Yeah, well, it's Ferrari, isn't it? You can always rely on them to somehow, in some way, mess up the strategy for a race. So we'll see what they do. But it looks like this weekend they are fairly quick. I think Ferrari may have the slight edge over McLaren this weekend, but we shall see. I don't know if all of McLaren's upgrades have been working as well as they would have liked. So they, earlier on in the season, they had a fantastic track record. Every single upgrade they brought worked fantastically. And it worked fantastically. And because of that, they progressed their way up through the field, got quicker than Red Bull. But now that flawless upgrade track record has, it's been reduced a little bit. So yeah, why has the DRS zone been shortened by 100 meters? It's just been shortened by 100 meters to make sure the drivers are side by side going into turn number 1, rather than they just slipstream past each other and then the overtake's done way before the corner. So essentially, if the drivers are side by side going through turn number 1, that means going through turn number 2 and turn number 3, they'll also most likely be side by side, and it just produces some more good racing. And then turn number 4 is the deciding corner, where the drivers can brake late. They can take a sort of V approach. So turn number 4 and 5, we see quite a few different lines here as well. The drivers can sort of hug the inside and then go for a double apex approach. So they hit the apex of turn number 4, don't go out very wide, and then they hit the apex of turn number 5 and then back onto the power towards turn number 6. Or you can take the alternative approach where you brake kind of late into turn number 4. You go all the way out across the circuit and then you come all the way back in. And that gives you a much better traction out of the corner. And you can get a lot more acceleration and power down. So there is 2 different approaches to taking that corner. And if there are any overtakes happening there, I can assure you that the 2 drivers will be taking 2 different lines. Where are the DRS zones? I'm pretty sure Qatar's only got 1 and it's just down the main straight. I don't think it has any other straights that are long enough for 2 DRS zones. I will just check though. Because Qatar isn't one of the circuits I often think about. Let's have a look. Just 1 DRS zone for Qatar. Very similar to Monaco. In fact, there are only a couple of circuits that have 1 DRS zone. I think Monaco has 1 DRS zone, Suzuka only has 1 DRS zone, and Qatar does. Which other circuits have only 1 DRS zone? I think that's it, actually. I'm not 100% sure. If you guys know any more circuits with only 1 DRS zone, then be sure to type it in the chat. How many hours later is sprint quali? Sprint quali is in 3.5 hours, folks. So I'll start streaming in 3 hours time, and the qualifying itself, sprint qualifying, will start in 3.5 hours. Are they punishing for swearing on the radio, or is it just media stuff? It's just the media stuff that you can do whatever you want over the radio, because the FIA has the ability to broadcast, to not broadcast swearing. I mean, to be honest, the FIA always have the ability to not broadcast swearing, but for some reason they want to take a problem with it. Yeah, it makes no sense because there are drivers that are potentially that are getting very, very close to. Well, they're having huge impacts. There are so many smoking and gambling adverts that go on in Formula One. There are so many oil adverts, and all of those things are totally fine. But you're going to draw the line at Max saying the F word. Like, it is. It makes no sense. If they wanted to be politically correct, then there are so many other things that they could do to be politically correct by not racing in Saudi Arabia and all of these things. But what can you do? When you get all your money from Saudi Arabia, you kind of just have to deal with it. Alright, start watching the Spanish language broadcast on TV, but your commentary over the top is quite helpful. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, there is. What else is there going on the circuit? Qatar's one of the few Grand Prix where the grandstands aren't actually fully packed out because there just isn't that much interest in Formula One in Qatar. A lot of people actually fly out to Qatar because you get a nice little holiday somewhere in the Middle East, and you also get to watch a Formula One race for fairly cheap. Two for one deal, discount, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, not that much interest in the local area of Qatar. Wait, I've just joined. Ferrari are actually good, or the rest have not put in good laps? No, I think the rest. Nobody's really pushing too hard now, because the risk with pushing too hard now is that the sprint qualifying is in 3.5 hours. So any crash that you have has to you have to get it. Firstly, you're not sure if you get the car back by the end of FP1, or you have to. You could have to wait till the end of FP1 to get the car back. Even if you have a crash, you may get it back during the FP1 session, but essentially the problem is that if you do have a crash, then the mechanics have only got 3 hours to fix it, which is, well, firstly not great for the mechanics because they don't get to get their lunch. Or they probably do get their lunch, but it's very compressed and very panicked for time. And also, you will increase your spending bill on repair parts. And this is another problem that the teams have been having, especially Williams, because their drivers just seem super duper crash prone. I mean, it wasn't the smartest idea hiring a rookie, because this is the thing, right? You've got Logan Sargent, who isn't that great in Formula One, and has had quite a few crashes, and you kick him out of the team because he's not delivering, and he's also crashing the car quite significantly and very often. So your problem is he's not quick and he crashes the car, and you replace the driver with a rookie who is pretty quick. Like Colapinto's keeping up with Albon, sometimes quicker than Albon, but sometimes slower as well. So fairly decent in terms of pace. However, he's a rookie. It's very, very likely that he's going to be crashing the car as well. So wasn't the smartest move, but I don't think they had that many alternatives as well. So we shall see. But also, oh my god, Lando Norris got a huge slide of the rear end there. The drivers are pushing the limits, as they aren't totally just backing off, but yeah, the driver's pushing the limits there. Lando Norris across the line, second place for him. Just before he set that lap, he had a huge snap of oversteer going through one of the longer corners, and yeah, I mean, this is the thing. In these very long corners, and when you're on such high downforce, it's very easy to catch the car. Well, not very easy, but you can catch the car, whereas the car isn't on a knife edge because you just have so much downforce on the rear wing. The car isn't really on a knife edge, and even if you do make a mistake or go slightly wide or catch a bit of understeer, you can always still recover it a little bit later on and not lose too much lap time, not risk damaging the car. What happened to McLaren? I know it's practice, but Piastri is slower than Bottas. Incredible. Well, I don't know if Piastri's pushing once again. And the other thing I do want to keep in mind is with only one practice session, quite often what we see is the teams split strategies between the drivers. They'll say, Lando, you're going to do the medium fuel runs. Piastri, you're going to do the high fuel runs. Because look at the gap there. Bottas and Zhou, they've also got a fairly big gap in terms of pace. What's that? 1.5 seconds between the two drivers. That may be down to driver skill, but that may also just be down to fuel load. So I think Piastri might be doing the longer fuel runs and, just more fuel in his car. So that's why he's slower. Surely Bottas will find a position for 2025. Would be a shame for teams to not use his talent. Yeah, well, unfortunately, there are only 20 seats in Formula 1. Hopefully in 2026 there'll be 22 seats in Formula 1. But nonetheless, a very, very limited number of people get seats. And I think Bottas is going to have to return to Mercedes as a test driver or a as a reserve driver. Of course, there's a chance that Kimi Antonelli just totally cracks under the pressure of Formula 1, and they have to replace him halfway through the season, and then we get Valtteri Bottas back at Merc. But that's quite unlikely to happen. I think Kimi Antonelli, given the faith that Toto Wolff has put in him, there must be good reason behind that faith. And I'm sure he'll do. I'm sure he'll do all right. I'm not going to say he's going to be exceptional or anything like that, but I think he'll be able to do pretty well and find his feet fairly quickly in Formula 1. And then in 2026, of course, there is the option that someone else's contract expires and they want to sign Valtteri Bottas because very experienced, very quick, very consistent. There's nothing that you can really do to fault him except that he'll want a big paycheck. Pierre Gasly fastest middle sector, and then he goes off in the third sector, really pushing all of these drivers now. And the other thing is there is quite a lot of the drivers know where the gravel trap is, and they know how much runoff there is, so they're always willing to take a couple of risks here and there. And as long as they know there's runoff and they're not going to crash, then you might as well flick the car in at maybe 10 k's faster than you normally would and see if it sticks. Because if it sticks, well, then it's free lap time. If not, then you're only onto the runoff area. All right. Who would you say have got the best pace so far? Well, the Ferraris, clearly. They're on hard tyres and they're setting lap times quicker than the McLarens on mediums. So I think that's a pretty clear choice. Yeah. Speaking of risk, what are the chances of track limiting impacting the race on Sunday? Well, as of right now, I haven't had a single lap get deleted by race control. Now, I don't know if that is just because it's practice and they don't delete laps in practice, but I think once qualifying rolls around, track limits will be a big issue. They've done quite a good work of the track limits here. Sainz has just crossed the line there, goes 0.3 quicker than Charles Leclerc. Fantastic lap there from Carlos Sainz on a set of hard tyres that 15 laps old as well. Brilliant job. But yes, what was the question? Will it affect the race on Sunday? Well, I don't think it'll affect the race too much. However, qualifying will definitely be affected. And what they've done is on the exits of the really high speed corners, they do have just purely runoff. But on a couple of the medium speed corners, what they've done is they've added a section of gravel and then they have the runoff area. So there is a real penalty for the drivers. They can't just drive over the runoff area and gain free lap time. They will drive over the gravel before they actually reach the runoff area. And because of that, they're going to lose that time. So we'll see the drivers sort of enforce the track limits on themselves because they don't want to be risking a puncture. They don't want to be risking damaging the floor. And they also don't want to be losing lap time. So because of that, the track sort of enforces the track limits itself. Of course, there are strips. I don't know exactly what the FIA use at this point in time, but they do have the detectors to check whether all four wheels have gone past the white line and things like that. And they will. I'm sure they'll be in use at some point sooner or later. How is Sainz so quick? Well, I think Sainz is just trying to prove that, oh yeah, I'm quicker than Leclerc, by the way. Ferrari's golden boy for I don't know how many years, but Ferrari. He's been in the Ferrari driver academy for quite a while. Has Charles Leclerc? He's got a contract till 2028 with Ferrari, or 2026 with 2027 with Ferrari, and he's their main guy. And Carlos Sainz is like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm quicker than him by 0.3 of a second. So do with that information what you want to do. We shall see if that lasts into qualifying. But yeah, good job regardless from both drivers, because they are top of the times on hard tyres. Oh, it's 2029. Wow. Yeah, that is huge. I mean, Charles joined Ferrari in 2019, so that's going to be 10 years. He's got a contract for 10 years at Ferrari. I mean, what does 10 years of Ferrari do to a man? The endless strategy fumbles, the endless next year will be our year and never actually delivering. Maybe next year will actually be Ferrari's year. This is the closest they've been to winning a world constructors championship in a very long time. So maybe next year rolls around, they have some good upgrades on the car for the next season, and they'll be fighting against the McLarens and the Red Bulls and the Mercs for the championship. That would be super duper exciting. Right. 20 minutes left of the practice session. The sky is now got dark in Qatar, so it's now what was I going to say? It's dark now in Qatar, which means that the track temperature is going to drop even further. Air temperature is also going to reduce down, and conditions are getting more and more similar to what they will be in qualifying, which will be a good thing. And that means the soft tires will be coming out, I think, to be tested out and to see how quick the drivers can really go. If I drove for Ferrari for 10 years, I would then retire and fly in style. Yeah, that would be one statement for sure. I mean, Charles Leclerc has got so many free Ferraris as well. I'm sure all he has to do is just ask. I think he's got one of the SF90s, like the blacked out versions. They look pretty cool. I'd be claiming a free Ferrari every year. I mean, I'm sure if Leclerc asked, "Oh, can I have one of each Ferrari, please?" They'll happily deliver it to his house in Monaco, which will have not enough parking space for the Ferraris. But what can you do? It's a nice problem to have: too many cars and too few parking spots. Okay. Lando Norris darts into the pit lane there. And 20 minutes left to go, so the soft tyre should be coming out sooner or later now. Also, folks, if you haven't hit the like button, please be sure to do so. It hugely helps out the channel. And hopefully we can have all 4,800 of you that are watching this stream coming along to sprint qualifying. I'm sure the time zones won't be ideal for many of you, but 3 hours and 15 minutes as the start of sprint qualifying. Imagine a career like that only drove for Ferrari. Well, if you remember the first year of Charles Leclerc's career, he was actually in the Sauber. 2018, he was in the Sauber. I think he got the drive for 2019 when Kimi Raikkonen and Charles Leclerc swapped teams, 2018 to 2019. So Leclerc went from Sauber to Ferrari. Raikkonen went from Ferrari to Sauber, and yeah. It's dark, the Skyfall time. Yeah, well, we're still on medium tires and hard tires, so I wouldn't say it's time to play the Skyfall music yet. But yeah, I suspect when the soft tires come out, we're gonna see some real quick laps. Okay. Will Kick Sauber really be replaced by Audi? Yes, next year, Audi. We're going to have so many constructors. Cadillac, Audi, McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes. Aston Martin, so many brand names. Of course, not all of them will manufacture their own engines, but still, nonetheless, I think it is fantastic to have so many big names in Formula One. Of course, yeah, the Red Bull. Red Bull's a pretty big name, but I don't think their main expertise is cars. Their main expertise is just doing absolutely crazy things because they can. I genuinely don't know if Red Bull has a health and safety guy. Like not the Red Bull Formula One team, just Red Bull as an organization. Do they even consider health and safety like a real concept? Yeah, who knows? Why is no one on softs? I have no idea. The one theory that I have is that they don't have enough softs for all of the quali sessions, because you have sprint quali 1, 2, and 3, and then qualifying 1, 2, and 3, which will require 6 sets of softs minimum, most likely 12 sets if you're going through to every single stage and you're doing 2 laps on each one. So they may be conserving their soft tires just to use in sprint quali and in qualifying, and that's why they are not doing any soft practice. I don't know. Or maybe they're just waiting for the final 5 minutes because they know that they're only going to do 2 or 3 laps anyway. So, let's wait and see. What's the latest on the DAS system on the Mercedes? No, DAS was banned in 2020. Like, they had it on the 2020 car. It was allowed for 2020, and then they banned it in the rules for 2021. So there is no DAS in the Mercedes. Oh, Giuseppe, best stream on YouTube. Hit the like button. Thanks everyone, gamer. Very much is appreciated, buddy. Thank you for the $5 donation, and yeah, thank you for sticking along for all of the streams. It is great to have you. Audi is going to dominate in the future, and Binotto is going to get his revenge against Ferrari. Yeah, we shall. But yeah, Binotto is going to be. I think he's a pretty good team leader. If you look at Binotto's sort of career history and career path, he was before. He was just an engineer at Ferrari, and then he went to lead engine engineer. And then he was the head of the engine department at Ferrari for a very, very long time. And then he switched over from the engine to, I think, overall technical director, and then he went from technical director to team principal. So he knows very well the fundamentals of how a team works. He's worked from every single role, right from the bottom all the way to the very top. Now, he has all of that knowledge. Does that make him a great team leader? Does that make him a great manager? Not necessarily, but I think he will have learned from his experiences at Ferrari where his shortfalls were, where his strengths were, and I think he should be he'll be in a fantastic position to lead the Audi team, and yeah. All right. I've seen other people on YouTube channels talking about DAS clickbait. I'm definitely sure it's clickbait. Mercedes, the DAS system has been banned in the 2021 regulations because essentially it says you're not allowed. You're not allowed any. The way that the regulations were worded was your steering wheel can only move in. Your steering wheel cannot move in the up-down axis, but it can move in different axes. It didn't say it can move in different axes, but like they were essentially saying, "Oh yeah, your steering wheel can rotate. Don't worry about it. Like we allow that, and you can turn your steering wheel." And the other thing was, you aren't allowed to modify the I think it's the toe and the camber of your wheel via any electronic motors while the car is running, or you can't allow to use any actuators or things like that where you just press a button and it moves it. The only thing that you were allowed to do was, well, it didn't explicitly say this in the rules. It was a grey area, as it always is. It didn't say that you could mechanically move it. So Mercedes essentially developed a mechanical system where they can pull the steering wheel forward or backwards, and that would slightly modify the toe, or I think was it the toe or was it the angle at which they're set in? I'm not exactly sure which. I think it was a toe angle, yeah. and they could modify it very slightly. And there were two grey areas in the rules, and they combined those grey areas to get a very small advantage in performance. But yes, DAS was definitely in 2020, guys. It was not in 2020. It was banned in 2021, and that was the end of it. And there's no DAS, and people just like clickbaiting because that's why you guys are talking about it, because that's why they like clickbaiting, because people will click on it and they will watch the video for whatever reason. So, all right, 10 minutes to go now, and look at that first driver out on soft tires, Franco Colapinto. I think Albon will be out on softs as well. Gasly and Ocon are still out on their mediums, and Zhou is out on softs, I think, also. It's not come through on the information, but I think it will be softs for him as well. Brilliant. All right, here we go then. Soft tire running. Why have you only got one video on your channel? Well, I would recommend, you guys, if you haven't watched the video already, it's about how Formula 1 engines have changed since the start of Formula 1. Like 1950, of course, what engines were they using then? Were they using V12s? I think they were using V12s out right at the start. V12s, V8s, V10s, whatever. And then the whole progression throughout Formula 1, what changes, slowly but surely. If you watch the entire video, you see the change in RPM. Like the max RPM was very low at the start of Formula 1, but every single decade that passes, the peak RPM of all of the engines increases and increases and increases. So yeah, that's the only video I've got on my channel, and the reason I've only got one is because, well, I made a couple of other videos. They weren't very good, and it takes a lot of time to make a good high quality video, and while I'm a student at university, I just don't have that much time. So essentially, yeah, the reason I haven't got more videos is because I just haven't got time to make them, because streaming takes up basically the majority, half of my weekend, 1/3 of my weekend, and then I've got other things to do in the weekend as well. So I probably could make videos if I set some time aside and made them, but yeah, haven't done anything just yet. All right. Sauber have Bortoletto and Nico for next year. That is correct. They'll have Nico Hulkenberg and Gabriel Bortoletto driving for them. And here we go. Everyone's coming out on set of soft tyres. I don't know why we're getting all of these question marks next to the drivers' names, but next to the tyre information, but it is, I can confirm it is soft tyres. Colapinto and Albon pushing pretty hard. Colapinto, in fact, went wide, I think, at turn number 12. I'm not 100% certain, but Albon fastest through the middle sector, looking very, very quick. And after he came across the line, that was third place for Alex Albon. Those V10 sounded epic, very, very enjoyable indeed. Yeah, honestly, just put on some headphones, and you don't even have to look at the video. Like, you just put on the headphones and just listen. It is brilliant. Question: since you like making streams, why haven't you done a stream ranking every F1 driver like Nedzo F1 Gridbox? Well, firstly, I have no idea who Nedzo F1 Gridbox is. I can't rank every single Formula 1 driver because I don't know every single Formula 1 driver. But yeah, I could do some sort of stream like that. However, I don't know. I don't know if you guys would want to watch such a thing. Like I do like a tier list video or tier list live stream, and I rank all of the Formula 1 drivers. I'm not sure. How is the Mercedes pace? Well, they're coming out on soft tyres now, so soon enough we will find out. George Russell, in fact, on a flying lap as of this very moment, and we shall see. Piastri gets out of the way. George Russell onto the brakes for turn number 4, flicks the car in, gets some very good rotation though as he goes through turn number 4. Now heads towards turn number 6. He crosses the first sector line. It's a green first sector for him, but he's 3/10 slower than Charles Leclerc in the first sector. So we'll wait and see what his lap time is going to be. But I think the Ferraris have the upper hand this weekend. At least so far, all of the information that we have gathered and that has been available to us it indicates the Ferraris are the quickest team this weekend. All right, and look at that. Second purple sector for Charles Leclerc. Alonso, nice lap from Fernando Alonso. Third place for him, second for Stroll. Verstappen's up into third as well, so that was a seriously good lap from the Aston Martins. Aston Martins do have a habit of doing this. They will, in qualifying, in practice, they will lower the fuel than compared to everyone else, so it looks like they're doing really well, but in reality, they're not that quick. Leclerc goes across the line, 8 tenths, oh my god, 8 tenths quicker than Carlos Sainz. A sensational lap there from Charles Leclerc. Sainz yet to complete his finish of his lap, so we'll see what he can do. But Leclerc was 2 tenths quicker in the first sector, 2 tenths quicker in the second sector, and if the trend continues, then it'll be 2 tenths quicker in the third sector as well. Perez across the line, 12th place for him, still a very big gap between himself and his teammate. The McLaren's down in 10th and 13th. Sainz goes across the line, and yeah, he's 3/4 of a second back from his teammate. So what I was saying earlier about Sainz being quicker, and he's just like, oh yeah, I'm better than Charles, by the way, that clearly was not true, because wow, what a lap from Charles Leclerc. Hulkenberg's just come over the radio saying, I went off at turn number 15, check the floor. This is a very big concern. The drivers are running the cars very low to the ground. Even if you just have a little bit of a bump as well, bump over the curbs, a little bit of driving over the gravel, the floor is potentially damaged. So let's wait and see. Ooh, we've got the McLarens here on flying laps. Piastri was purple in his first sector. Lando Norris has taken that away. And, the track evolution is important here. Tracks is getting slightly quicker, but the lap time should be fairly equal. Colin Pinto across the line, 14th place for him after not going off at turn number 12. Piastri, second place. Fantastic job from him. He's 2 tenths back from Leclerc, but I think Lando Norris may be slightly quicker. Norris is definitely quicker in the first sector. Second sector ever so slightly quicker, half a tenth. The Mercs come across the line, 5th and 6th place between for the two Merc drivers. George Russell being the driver ahead, but half a tenth is the gap between the two Mercs, and half a tenth is the gap between the two McLarens. But Charles Leclerc still at the top, 1 tenth ahead of Lando Norris. So it seems like the McLarens were just doing super long run pace, and they had loads of fuel in the car, or maybe they turned down the engine. But whatever they were doing before, they aren't doing now. And look at that, they're right up there with the Ferraris. This is going to be a very, very exciting Constructors' Championship battle. We are 4 minutes away from the end of practice. We've had our first set of soft tyre runs. We're going to have probably a second set, but the drivers will still be using the same set of soft tyres. In a sprint weekend, we are pretty limited in the number of tyres available to the drivers, so they're going to be using 2 sets. They're going to be doing 2 laps on these set of softs before they get out another fresh set. Okay. As a British, what do you think about British bias? Well, I mean, British bias is a thing. It's real. It exists. But the problem is, as I've said this before, but the thing is, like, if the Italian commentary is very biased towards Ferrari, if the Spanish commentary is very biased towards Fernando Alonso, you don't hear about it because you don't understand Spanish, you don't understand Italian, and whatever they're saying, which is super biased, you don't hear any of it. Whereas English, because it is a global language and nearly everyone knows it, or at least knows part of it, when British people write the news and the British bias is present, as it is for any other person or any other nationality, it's just the British bias is the one that gets spread around the most because everyone understands the language. So I think bias is always going to be a factor of journalism, of commentary, but you try to eliminate it as much as possible. All right. 1 minute 53 remains of the session. We got Norris in the pits. Piastri just coming out now. They're going to do their final couple of the final lap, in fact. Risk of rain is 0% for the sprint quali. I mean, that's to be expected. Qatar is in the middle of a desert. And The circuit, or the track evolution, even though the track has been cleared up as of now, the wind speeds are still 7.3 kilometers an hour. So over the 2.5 hour gap, the 3 hour gap between between the end of the practice session and the start of quali, sand is going to reinsert itself onto the circuit, and it is going to... And its track evolution will be, once again, another factor in sprint qualifying. All right. So that is the end of the session, folks. It has been a pleasure commentating to you guys. I will be commentating. So I'll start commentating in 2.5 hours, whereas the sprint qualifying itself will start in 3 hours' time. Yeah, I think that's about it, really. We're having the final couple of laps come through, but I'll update you guys on the ending FP1 laps at the start of the quali stream. I've got to go and I've got to make some lunch. So I will see you guys in 2.5 hours time for the start of sprint qualifying. I'm just going to end the stream now. I'll take you over to the sprint quali stream. If you could hit the like button on the sprint qualifying stream, it hugely helps out the channel. And I think that's it from me. Yeah, have a wonderful morning, day, afternoon, evening, or night, depending on where you are in the world. And I'll see you in 2.5 hours. Cheers, fellas.